these, or just asks for?
Yeah, if they ask good, if they don't ask, you just pick one and ask.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll hand over the mic to Collin, but we'll also go with the introduction by the individual panelists itself. Let them speak for themselves. Okay.
Awesome. Everyone can hear me. Hi, everyone. My name is Collin MacDonald. I'm a second-year MS PhD student, and I'm the moderator for this talk. And each of the panelists is just going to go down, and we'll introduce ourselves.
All right. So, hi, I'm Amit. I am a sixth-year PhD student here. I am advised by Dr. Denis Poshivanik and Dr. Advait Madkarni. I research on the intersection of security and software engineering.
Hi everyone. So I'm Carlos Bernal. I'm a software engineer at Microsoft. I have been working there for around a little bit more than 2 years. So yeah.
Hi, I'm Amanda Watson. I graduated in, 2020. I am now an assistant professor of electrical and computer engineering at the University of Virginia, and I'm CEO of a company called Luminosity Wearables.
Hey everyone, I'm Trevor Stalnaker. I am in my third year of the PhD program, and I do research in software engineering, specifically looking at the software supply chain. I'm advised by Dr. Poshivanik and Dr. Chaparro.
Hi everyone, my name is Ying Li. I'm a fourth-year PhD student from William and Mary, co-advised by Dr. Yifan Sun and Dr. Advait Jog. I'm interested in the area of GPU architecture and machine learning. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. So this panel is really just for everyone to ask questions about everything from student life to being a grad student at William & Mary to what it's like to live in Williamsburg. So does anyone have any questions? Okay. Question.
So I was just wondering what the cost of living is like in in Williamsburg. Is it fairly affordable? Like what does rent cost and things like that?
Yeah, so from my experience, it's been fairly affordable, actually easily affordable with the stipend. Over the time that I've been here, it's increased a little bit. That's to be expected. I think it's been increasing everywhere, but I haven't found it to be a problem.
I think my salary can cover the cost of my life. It's enough for me.
So based on the past few years, whereas the house rent has increased, so has the stipend for the students who are doing PhD here, and they are fully funded almost all the time. And based on what I know, what I have heard from my peers in other universities, I think the cost of living here is relatively cheaper compared to some of the adjacent universities. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think just to add on to that, like you can always start to look early. So like if you're coming here in August and you're trying to find housing end of August, that might be hard. But if you know you're coming and you can look out, at least a few months ahead, that makes it a lot easier to find somewhere that's affordable. Awesome. Any more questions? Okay, then I have a question for you guys. So why did you choose to go to grad school?
I can start. So I have always been interested in creation of concepts or ideas, and it's like if you have this passion of creating, academic research is the way to go for, and grad school is the best place to learn about research hands-on, because you get to learn from researchers, you get to understand how you do research and how you can actually show other people that what you're doing, and because it's also evaluated by other peers, you get to actually express what you're doing to people who actually understand those things and to people where it matters. So that's one of the reasons why I chose grad school.
So for me, is basically I am this kind of person that likes to keep learning things, and I remember by the time I was still in Colombia. I'm from Colombia originally. and I was doing my master's. So I was really curious to keep learning things, and I was really into mobile development, Android ecosystem, and all that. So I wanted to keep learning on that. So yeah, that's how I choose.
When I looked at going to grad school, I looked around and the job that I wanted didn't exist. So part of what I've been doing this whole time is creating that job that I wanted, and now I get to do that.
So I think for me, there's two reasons. For as long as I can remember, I've really been passionate about education. So really, I'm here because I want to be a professor at the end of the day. And I specifically want to be a professor because for computer science in particular, teaching at like a high school level or something, you don't get to solve interesting problems and you're just very basic stuff. I did do it for a year and it's mostly just keyboarding. So you get to actually shape students a little bit more, mentor them, work on really interesting problems at the college level. Then the other reason that I wanted to pursue a PhD is just like Amit, I really like building things. I like learning. I like solving problems. So these two really came together in a really big way for me.
For me, I plan to apply for graduate program for when I am a freshman. So when I'm ready, I just apply for the graduate program. I think I have several reasons. First one is that I like to collaborate with other people. I like to discuss the problem or questions with them. Second is that I like to solve the problem or difficulties I met. I really enjoy the feeling that solve a very difficult problem. Second is that I think I really love the student life. So the life being a student is I can do a lot of things I want to do. I really enjoy life like that. Thank you.
Oh, isn't it? Do you have? Yeah, can you read that?
So the question from YouTube is, how do you stay motivated when the expected result is not coming after a lot of hard work? Is it possible to maintain work-life balance when you are fully committed to research?
I think that's a really good question. And it can be tough if you've been working on something for weeks or months and it just comes out like it's a bust, right? I know that happens sometimes. I'm still pretty early in my journey, so I haven't had that happen, so I don't have personal experience. But I do know there are some people in my lab that have published or have sent papers off for publication and had them rejected. And it's just a matter of, getting back on the horse and keep working, just keep going. What was the second part of the question?
How do you maintain work-life balance while being fully committed to research?
That's also a really good question. And I think we heard this in one of the earlier talks that research isn't really a 9 to 5, so it's going to find you even at like 12 a.m., right? But for me, I like to try to put up some mental blocks and say, okay, I'm going to devote this much time to it. If it goes over, so be it. But I try to make sure that I've got some time allocated to kind of do something not research related.
So your work-life balance will ebb and flow. Sometimes you'll work an 80, 100-hour week. Sometimes you'll work a 20-hour week. And that's just kind of how it goes. Other thing, schedule things outside of research. Make sure you have a time dedicated to go do it. I was an athlete, so I played volleyball on the weekends. But everybody's thing is a little different. And then what was the other half of the question? It's a hard double question.
So how do you stay motivated when the expected result is not coming, even when you're working hard?
Don't be afraid to pivot. You can also publish early results. So just don't be afraid to do that.
I would say for motivation, at least for me, it is basically love what you do, right? If you love what you do, then even if you have problems or you find like a wall, then eventually if you keep working, you keep persistent, then you will be able to find a solution, right? So at least that was for me, like that was my case. Like I was working on things that I loved, so that was really helpful. And then work balance. So thanks. So for work balance, yeah, definitely, yeah, allocate time for you and for yourself. Do different things, and you know, and even do different activities with other people in the department. I think that was really helpful. Yeah, I remember with Amanda, we started together, and yeah, sometimes we have different activities in the department. So yeah, definitely try to join these activities.
So the first part of the question, what happens when you don't get expected results? Let's dissect that a bit, okay? So what does that mean when we are not receiving expected results? Is it about from experiments, the experiments are going wrong, or is it about, let's say we have done everything right, but for some reason it's not getting published? So if it is the first case, then, well, we need to understand why it is happening, because in research, it's the why that matters, like what is happening, how is happening, and why it is happening. And from there, you move on, right? But for the second part, it's a common problem that sometimes when you even have like really splendid results, you are having a hard time publishing that. And it sometimes can happen because your idea, your solution, or your framework is so out of the box that you're having a hard time convincing other people that, look, this actually matters and this is going to change the field. And we have seen that time and time again. Many of the test of time awarded papers, basically like papers which received recognition again after 10 years of publication, they were often not accepted in top-tier conferences when they were first submitted. So it's a delicate balance. Sometimes there will be some kind of setbacks, but if you keep on it, at one point it will get published, and that's where your own motivation and your own passion will have to play the key role. Because if you believe in your own solution, your own result, that's how you actually can push the boundary of science. Now about work and life balance, you have to find your groove. I remember like we used to have dance parties at Carlos's place. So it depends on what you like. And sometimes, as I think Amanda said, that sometimes you can't really have a work-life balance because you're like pursuing a deadline. So for example, I actually remember like one instance, one of the top tier papers that got accepted and will be presented next year. I was actually staring at the data for like a whole night. And after staring at it, because I was like, I feel that there's something important going on here, but I don't see what. I just kept staring at that. And at 7 in the morning, I figured like, oh, that's it. I found it. And I actually called my advisors like, okay, I think I found something really interesting and we should talk about that. And they're like, yep, this is interesting. Yep. So you will have moments like that when you have to keep pushing to basically grasp that splendid thing that you are trying to find. But in general, you will have to have that work-life balance where you not only work, but also have things for yourself, because like even machines need maintenance. So as a human being, we also need that part for ourselves. So I hope that answers your question.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. We're going to do one more question from YouTube, and then I'll ask the room again.
Okay, so from YouTube, what advice would you give to other graduate students if they want to be a professor, hopefully in William and Mary in the future? So I guess the academic route, what advice?
It kind of all depends, but it starts with publications. Get those out and then start figuring out where you want to be as a professor. I jumped departments. I'm now in electrical engineering, even though my PhD was in computer science. So it's a lot of work, but it's rewarding when you get there.
So I'm not a professor, but long term, that's my goal. So I can just tell you like what my rule of thumb is as I'm on my way there. Whenever I get a teaching opportunity, I take it because it's always just a way to build those skills. So maybe I'm working with middle schoolers, teaching them robotics. Maybe I'm working with high schoolers, teaching them the fundamentals of programming. It doesn't matter because a lot of those skills are going to transfer over. So if your advisor asks you to come in and do a guest lecture, take that opportunity because these things are slowly going to build up and they're going to make you a more effective professor when the time comes.
To answer the questions, I think maybe two main points. The first is that if you want to be a professor, so you have to very good at doing research. So you have to have very good publications. So that's the first key point. The second point is that I think you should improve some skills to be effective, like how to give a presentation, how to explain things clearly to your student, and maybe teaching a course when you are a PhD student. I think it will be helpful.
What was the question again?
So what advice would you give to other graduate students if they want to be a professor in the future?
All right. So once again, depends on which track, is it teaching or research? But either way, you have to teach. And in that case, try to get as many teaching opportunities that you can. Try to, for example, let's say, if you don't have a formal teaching opportunity, at least try to mentor the undergrad students through your projects or your research. And I would say if you can have the opportunity, work as an instructor of record, talk with your advisor, ask them, like, can I teach a class as a guest lecturer for one of your courses? And through that, you gain teaching experience. And of course, you will have to do research, try to, for example, work as a sub-reviewer or program committee member for artificial evaluation committees or shadow program committees. All of those will help you gain the experience and will also give you an idea about what it's like when you are acting as a professor at academia, so that you can also get the feel of like what it is about. And all of those will also add to your experience and will build your resume. Yep.
So I just wanted to mention something related to what Amit mentioned about mentoring. I think mentoring is also useful even in industry, right? Because I mean, sometimes junior developers join the team, right? Join your team, and you sometimes have to help them to get through the process, to get to know the team, to get to know the tools. So that is also important to know how to guide them in that sense. So yeah, mentoring as well for industry, I would say, is important.
Awesome, great responses. Any questions from anyone in here?
Okay, one question to all of you is, what's your normal day looks like these days? And what is your pressure level? Are you feeling really pressure right now, or you're just really relaxed? Or if you're a graduate, what your life is like when you're at graduate school? And what is your main source of pressure?
So for me, basically, my day will start around 10 a.m. That's where I start looking my email, go through my emails, seeing like what's going on, checking what I will have, like meetings that I will have during the day, maybe the next day, and then probably usually around 11:30 is where I have my meeting with my team. I work remotely. I currently live in Redmond, in Washington State. So I'm working remotely from there, even though my team is located in the Seattle area, in the Bellevue area. But yeah, we have the stand-up meeting every morning around 11:30. And then after that, I pretty much start looking what I'm going to focus on during the day, during the stand-up. Also, that's what you kind of share with the team to see what everybody's doing. Are we stuck with something? Things like that. And then after that, after lunch is where I actually focus on my work and try to complete my task. And then if I have meetings, then I attend the meetings. But yeah, that's pretty much my day.
So I think the main source of pressure comes from the paper deadlines. When we have a deadline, we have to, when we are aiming to publish or at least submit a paper to a specific conference, we have to keep that deadline in mind. And And you have to address a lot of things, right? You have to make sure that the paper is written well, your experiments are done right, and there are no gaps that anyone can address. Like basically, you want to make your submission bulletproof. So when you have multiple team members with you doing a research project, all of them comes in and tries to make everything solid at that point. So that's when you kind of like start feeling huge pressure. But otherwise, generally, for me, it's like you have weekly goals or bi-weekly goals. It depends, and you kind of like go through the project goals and try to figure out, okay, this is what we did last time, and next time I'm going to talk about this with my peers. This is actually what happened, and this is how I'm going to address those. If there are any problems, I'm going to address those problems in this way. So I would say when you are a grad student, your routine is defined by yourself. Like you have to kind of like figure out when you want to work, what time works better for you, and then based on that, you basically just work and keep digging on your research project. Yep.
So in grad school, it was all about deadlines. That was the big stressor, and making sure that you make as many of those as you can get to. Since then, it's now about fundraising, whether for my company or for my lab. So it's a different type of writing papers for deadlines.
I'm just going to reiterate that the main point of pressure is going to be the paper deadlines, because in a majority of the domains in computer science, you're going to be trying to apply to conferences. So you got to meet those deadlines. Now, in terms of what a typical day looks like, I think it's really going to vary, not just in the time of year, but also where you are in your graduate studies. Like, for example, the first 2 years, you're going to be taking classes, you're going to be doing TA work, and on top of that, you're also going to be doing research. So those are going to be a busy couple of years. Once you just start doing research, you're going to have more irons in the fire because you can work on more projects at the same time. And you're also going to be a little bit more freer in when you choose to do that work. So time management is going to be important when you reach that phase. So towards the beginning, before the deadlines, you're not going to be super pressed, not going to feel the pressure, but you're still going to be going. But then as the deadline approaches, there's going to be some late nights. You're going to be working probably from sunrise to well past sunset.
I think the first question is about the normal life, normal study life. So I usually will work in the morning, then I will have lunch with my friends in the university. So we'll go to the dining hall because I want to make sure I chat with my friends at least. Then I will, in the afternoon, I will have a scheduled meeting with my advisor. If we don't have a scheduled meeting, when I have some questions, I will just come to his office and discuss with him. Then I will go back at about 6 p.m. by bus. So that's my life. I usually go to the university in the weekdays. On Saturday and Sunday, if I have a deadline, I will also work. But if I don't have, then I will just relax. The second question is about the main stress source. I think for me, the main stress source is when I meet some problems or difficulties I cannot solve. So I will feel anxious at that time. But the first step, I will try to make me relax, and then I will come down and make a plan to solve the problem, like discussing with my advisors or reading related papers to see how they solve the problem. Next, I will try the potential methods to solve the problem one by one to see how to solve the problems. You just believe that the problem can be solved, then you will be relaxed.
Yeah, and just to add, yeah.
So I want to add something here. In grad life, your schedule is probably going to be flexible. So the reason is that when you are working with an advisor who is motivated and you are also motivated because you both have ownership of that research, your advisor is not going to tell you that, okay, you are going to work 9 to 5. I don't think any faculty member in CS does that in William and Mary. Maybe in some other departments at some other universities, I try to stay away from those. But if you have ownership, then it's like you are trying to, get rid of that itch that you're having, right? So it will depend. Sometimes you'll have more work hours on a day, and sometimes you'll be like, I want to take a break because I've been working and chipping away at this problem throughout the whole week, and I'm going to take a break right now because my brain needs a break. So it's going to be a bit flexible, I think. Yep.
Yeah, and just to echo what other people have said, like throughout your time as a PhD student, your priorities and your stresses are going to change. So like as a second year student, my main concerns are usually related to like getting my TA grades in on time, making sure I'm supporting students in office hours, that type of stuff. But once you're no longer a TA, then it starts to shift into more research focused goals. And so that's just important to be aware of. Any more questions from in here?
Thank you. So my question is about if you're doing research and you need to reach out to another academic at another institution who has no connection to your social graph, and you want to get their attention, want them to actually read your paper, want to, give you feedback. How do you go about doing that from like a cold calling perspective?
You can always send stuff out, try to at least put something personal in there about whoever you are trying to get in contact with. It helps if you can find them at a conference and meet them in person, then that puts a name to your face. But you may not get good results. On the other end, people get a lot of emails every day, so it could get lost in that. So be prepared to be a little persistent.
So I haven't found myself in this exact situation, but for some of the research that we've done, we've sent basically cold call emails to a bunch of experts that we wanted to interview. And from that, not all of them respond, but we've gotten a decent amount, not only responding, but also willing to talk with us. So I think when you're talking with people about an area that they're interested in, they're going to be more likely to respond. So as long as in your email you're being polite and you're making it clear that you're actually passionate about this research, same as them, I think that would increase your odds of getting a response back.
I think just get prepared, then maybe have a shorter introduction for the research you are doing or the paper you are doing. And make sure when you explain the question or problems they ask, you can have a clear answer.
And I'll also add, if you have the chance, look through their work and then try to reference that in the email to show that you didn't just email them out of the blue and you actually put some thought into it.
It's also always flattering to get those emails. So when you send them, don't be afraid if you see them at a conference in the future, then you can in person follow up.
So in a slightly different context, so we actually we send emails sometimes when we needed to access some tools or maybe some data that was not available for some reason. So yeah, pretty much summarizing in general what you are trying to do, and then mentioning what specifically what you need, right? Like from them. And then, yeah, that's pretty much all you can do, right? Like it's pretty much on them, whether give you access to the tool or the data that you need. And yeah, that's pretty much what, at least in my experience, that we have done.
So let me ask you this again, okay? What would be the purpose of sending that email? Is it to let them know that I exist, or is it about getting some academic resource? Which one is it?
Well, so in my particular case, like for some background, so I already have a position where I should be doing research, weirdly enough. I don't have a PhD, but I'm working at Jefferson Lab. And like we're really kind of isolated from the broader computer science community, and most of the physics community cheerfully doesn't know they exist. And so there's a number of people, you know, doing similar research that I've slowly found. But what I really want is a sanity check on my own stuff that I'm doing, which is very creative but disconnected from the rest of, you know, academia.
Perfect. In that case, when you're going to send that email, write it in a way so that they actually understand why it matters and where you're coming from. Because as people in research, they always want to have these different perspectives from cross-domain, because you know it's kind of like having these all dots that are in front of you, and you want to connect the dots, and you are actually introducing that dot that doesn't exist in their domain. So they'll be definitely interested, but you have to write that email in a way so that they actually know what you're talking about. So figure out like why you are sending that email, why it matters to them first, and then why you are going to also matter to them. So if you get across, like you check all those boxes, it's highly likely that you're going to get the response. Okay. So the question is, how do you deal with failures such as paper rejections? Anyone wants to take a bite at that?
Not every one of your papers is going to get in on the first time, and that's just kind of how that goes. You revise it and you resubmit it. Don't get discouraged. Take it as a learning experience and get all the comments addressed in that new revision. That'll give you a much better chance, even if you're submitting to the same place, to get it back in.
So I mentioned this earlier. I'm still really early in my journey, so I haven't personally really experienced this to the extreme. But I think the advice that I hope that I would hold to in the event this happened was take that failure as an opportunity for growth, and make sure that you actually look at the feedback that you were given, because there's going to be some truth in it, and use that to make your submission when you resubmit better. And also apply that to your future work, so that just as you go through, you're going to get better and better and better. So don't look at it necessarily as you failed, this says something about you. Look at it instead as, oh, this is great. This is an opportunity for me to be better.
I think at first I will feel very disappointed, but then I think after I got this experience, I think next time I will try to submit a paper, then I will adjust my expectation. So I think I submit to this conference. I just wanna to see how the reviewers look at my paper, what kind of suggestions they will give me, so I can they can help me to improve my paper. So when I adjust my expectation, I think okay, I can accept the result. It's reject. It's totally okay. Second, if I think it's a very good work, but it's rejected, but don't be disappointed, or don't be deny yourself. Just be confident. You can revise your paper again, then to submit a conference. Maybe your paper can be accepted by a better conference.
I'll just add one thing before passing the mic down. I think when you get those revision notes, it's really easy to look at them and get really frustrated and upset and act like, oh no, actually I didn't need to do that. Oh, we did say this in the paper or something like that. So it can often be helpful, kind of take a break from it, walk away, actually literally go for a walk or something, and come back later with a fresh mind, and then you'll see, oh yeah, there's actually some good sense here.
Yeah, actually, I was going to add to what Trevor said. Basically, let it sit, right? Like if you have a rejection, let it sit for a moment, for a while. Not too long, right? Don't wait months and things like that. Because usually you focus so much in the area on the specific problem that you don't see things that you sometimes miss, right? And then you go back to the paper, read it again, and then read the reviews, right? And see how you can overcome the issues that they highlighted, or maybe try a different approach, or something different. But yeah, definitely looking at this with a different perspective will help you.
So rejection can happen for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes those are good and sometimes they're bad. If it's good, then I mean, of course, we're going to address that. But even bad reasons can have some element of truth inside it. I'm going to share one experience first, but before that, generic advice, you will have to go through that 5 stages of grief, from disappointment to acceptance somehow. So taking a break always helps. So for one of my conference papers, it got rejected, but it got rejected because they couldn't understand how it was different from another paper, which was also from our lab. And I was like, okay, we know the difference. They don't. How do we explain that to them? Because you can't really say that it's also our paper. We know the difference because it's double blind. So they don't know who is submitting the paper and you don't know who is reviewing that paper. So we actually thought about like, okay, how do I handle this? And we realized that, okay, we actually need to establish our novelty a bit more upfront so that they actually know how it's different from the existing work that we already have from our lab. And later on, it actually became much more better and much more strong in terms of writing the content. The experience did not change. The paper, in terms of technical contributions, did not change too much, but it was the writing that got improved a lot. And I would say that without that review, it would not have happened. So try to find that element of truth in whatever review you can get. It is going to be bad, it's going to be good sometimes, but there is probably going to be some element of truth because it's being viewed by someone who doesn't have your context, doesn't have your background. And when it's your writing, your project, you kind of have the full context in your brain, and it's easy to overlook those parts. Yeah.
Awesome. So we have time for one more question. Does anyone have any questions? There we go. I see 3 hands. Who wants to?
Okay, I have one question. What would be the question that you feel like you were hoped to be asked but not being asked yet?
That's a very good question. For me, I actually came with 0 expectations because like when you have and you don't have any expectations, you get surprised a lot, right? And if you have expectations, you can have all of those like predetermined answers in your head. I don't go by that. So all of the questions were new for me. Yeah, I can't think of a question that I was expecting to receive, to be honest.
Right now, tell the first year you know, what message you would tell?
Okay, so the response that we got just now is like, if you can give one message to first year research students, what would that be? I'll let you start.
You mean to your previous you?
Or someone new.
Or someone new? Yeah, I would say definitely don't get discouraged and keep trying. And the point that I mentioned before is like working something that you feel passionate about, like something that you like, something that you enjoy. Like pick a topic that you definitely enjoy, because yeah, you will get rejection from different conferences, journals, and yeah, that's something that will help you. So yeah, just keep working, and yeah, take your time. If something happens, like take a little bit of time, and yeah, see things from a different perspective, and that definitely will help.
I'd probably have to say all the hard work that you're putting in right now will pay off down the road. You will get there. Just keep going.
So I think I'm going to answer that first question. the one, what was the question we hoped that we were asked? And honestly, I think it might be that question. That's the one that I wanted. No. Actually, I think, and this is going to fold into the question that we were just answering. What is like my favorite part about being here? Like, what's the best part of the experience? And I think in general, I would say that's probably the people, meaning the students, you know, both the grads and the undergrads and the professors. I think they're really what makes this worthwhile. So to fold that into the other question of what I would tell my younger self, I would tell them, you know, don't be afraid to go to your professors with ideas, to ask questions, and don't be afraid in your classes to go and collaborate with your classmates. You know, because a lot of these people might end up being in your lab at some point in the future. And through those collaborations, even if they're in some field drastically different than anything that you're interested in, sometimes you can get some sparks of innovation from that. So that would be my advice to myself.
I think the first question is that I want to ask, or I think the most important is that what's the important factor when you apply for graduate program, when you make decision which university you want to go to. I think the two main factors. The first one is that make sure you find a very good or nice advisor. The second is that find something you really like or you are interested. So when you are doing research, you are interested, you will feel more easier than the things you don't like. The second question is that what I will tell myself if I'm first year PhD student. I will just tell myself, just be confident, don't feel scared.
So if I needed to tell something to my first year self, I would say, oh, you're doing fine. Everything's perfect. Don't worry. But seriously, I would say to anyone who is in their first year, it's about finding out why you are doing this or what is your passion. So for example, for me, when I was trying to decide whether research is for me or not, because like it's a big decision, right? You will have to go through this and you will probably be doing this for the rest of your life. So you have to remember why you're passionate or whether you're actually passionate about that in the first place, and only then you can keep going through it. For me, it was a single line from a novel called Profession by Isaac Asimov. And it goes something like this: I can create and I will do so whether you like it or not. So it's about having this passion for, creating new concepts, new research ideas. And it's beautiful because it's like you have this tendency to create, and whether anyone likes it or not, it's part of you. So you have to remember your passion and figure out why you want to do that. So as a first year, that's my first advice. And the second one is to try to figure out what is your work style is like and find advisors who matches with that style. Because different advisors will have different personalities, different work styles, and you need to work with someone who can actually show you how it's done while you both have kind of like similar perspectives or similar passion about similar topics. So I think both of those matters for first year students. Yep.
Awesome. Well, with that, the student and alumni panel is wrapped up. So I think there's going to be a break and then the poster session.
So first of all, let's thank the panelists here. Thank you very much for, some of the people have traveled from Seattle to here, driving 2.5 hours from University of Virginia to William and Mary. And this shows how much they love William and Mary, right? So that's what we want. Now, having said that, the next session is poster session. Please go ahead and enjoy, talk to the presenter. And don't forget to vote for the best poster. We're going to give them award. And we just don't want us to judge, want you guys to just vote it. There will be QR code everywhere. Just scan that and vote. Thank you very much.